You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Tide.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted, it is! And it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
Thanks for pressing play on this episode of the Two and Out CFL podcast. It's Travis Currah, it's Sheldon Jones, and it is Grey Cup week. I am live from the Hammer, Hamilton, Ontario, on 2.5 hours of sleep. I've had a long travel day, but I have Chinese food waiting for me to devour, and I'm ready to talk about Grey Cup week. I know you've got some FOMO going on right now, Sheldon.
I do. I am live from my basement and not Hamilton. But it is what it is.
It doesn't help that the Roughriders had to just have a really positive news story at the beginning of Grey Cup week.
Shocker. Yeah.
Nic Marshall, he got charged. Was it gun possession charges in Georgia? And the Roughriders have already released him. Man, this might be the end of his career in the CFL. We'll see what happens with that, man. That's tough. He's got a new kid that just got welcomed into the world, in the last year or so. I hope this gets figured out. I hope he's on the right path, but it's Grey Cup week. So let's talk about some of the other stuff going on. The State of the League address, normally they do the media one and then the fan one back to back. But this year, the media one went down on Tuesday, and the fan one is going to happen Friday morning. So let's talk about some of the stuff that went down at the State of the League address. It's been one of those years where most things were pretty positive with the CFL, including, I guess, ratings for the division finals, Sheldon. I can be a grumpy old curmudgeon about it, but it does appear that the playoffs on Saturdays are here to stay. It was a success in the stands, obviously. Toronto and Winnipeg, both fan bases, brought the heat in the division finals, and they were watched well on TV as well. So it seems to be there's just a lot of good news surrounding the CFL right now. How do we keep it going? That's the big question, right?
Yeah, everything seems to be trending up. So hopefully they can continue that. I know we're going to talk about something that might not be so great for the league and the players a little bit later, but I think that it's very good news. It kind of feels like the CFL is back to where it was kind of pre-COVID, because I think before COVID, things were looking up too, right? So I think we kind of weathered that storm. I think now we just hopefully that MLSE, I think, can see what they were able to do and attract those fans to MLS or to BMO. So hopefully they can build on that and get a base of, at least 20,000 season ticket holders. That'd be the dream, obviously, but just show those people in Toronto and the GTA that there's exciting football to be had.
There's a lot of talk about the stats still, and it was brought up at the State of the League address. At this point, I kind of wonder if it's even going to be ready for next year. And that's one of the things where sometimes all of this positive news, it just could be even better. And I think that's the common thread with every fan of the CFL. They want it to be as good as can be. And we got to stay out of our way sometimes when it comes to the stats things. And I don't know, to me, it seems like they're not shy with admitting that, the ball was fumbled here at the goal line. There was a too many men penalty on a missed kick
Yeah.
for the Buffalo Roughriders.
Can you imagine if you were cheering for both of those teams?
Oh yeah, there's got to be a crossover of fans there somewhere,
Yeah.
and they're not. They're having a rough
We're
week.
here for you, man. We're here for you.
That's rough. And that's just one of the things where stay out of our way, your own way, make things as good as they can be. And that's one of them. I truly believe that, hey, we got a good product. It's just everything surrounding it. Let's not drop any more balls like this one. And next year, if everything's up and running and as good as they tell us it can be and will be, then things are, I think, going well for the CFL right now. I know you're interested in this one, Sheldon. It does appear that the ops cap probably staying in place.
I'm fine with it staying in place. They just need
Right.
to figure out the penalties portion of it. Because
Mhm.
I agree with exactly what Randy said, that the players were getting upset seeing the level of pay that the coaches were getting as opposed to the level of pay that they were getting. So I understand that there needs to be a cap there. And I also understand that you need to you have to rein in teams from, hiring a guy for 4 years, firing him that first year, being on the hook for those 4 years. So you have to find a way to penalize that team, but you can't hinder that team from fielding a team and fielding the proper coaches to be able to coach. So I know I've put this on X and Reddit, and I'm kind of just thinking of it here, but I have a solution, and it involves draft picks. Okay. Head coaches or presidents probably worth the most amount of draft picks, I would say. If you fire a head coach or a GM or a president with time left on your deal, first round draft pick you lose for however many years. Let's say you got 3 years left, you lose the next 3 first round draft picks. That's a pretty hefty penalty. Yet you still have money to be able to hire a new coach, hire a new president, GM, whatever. So I'm still kind of figuring it out, but I think Randy needs to give me a call. We'll sit down over some Timmies, and we'll hammer this out. All I ask for is a nice new CFL hat to fit this chrome dome of mine. That's not chrome, actually.
We need
I
some
have a nice
custom
head in it.
made. Yeah, look at that. We need some custom made um my wife making a cameo in the background. That's got me laughing. We need some custom made size 8 1/4. Or what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. Maybe we'll just have to do it ourselves. So there's one other thing that I did want to I wanted to go back to what you said about the stats for a second.
Oh, yeah,
because I don't know if you saw it, but I saw it. They played a video with like all the stuff that these smart balls, all the information that
Oh,
the smart
right.
balls are showing, right? And so who knows if that's actually what it's going to look like, or if they just made that and that's what it's supposed to look like. But to me, I thought that was really cool when it was showing the velocity of the speed coming
I
out of
think that
Chad Kelly's
is.
hand, and how many times it spins and stuff. Like, that's cool. That's
I think
another
it
way
is.
to engage younger people into seeing it, and also bettors, because you can definitely use that information for betting. So I I echo everyone's sentiments with being upset about the stats this year, but I think this is just a pretty deep valley before we get a nice hill, a nice mountain worth of good stuff out of this. Hopefully, for 10% of the league, it better be. Let's be honest.
Yeah. That I actually do think that stuff's pretty cool.
Mhm.
We could see how fast, Super Mario Alford or James Fletcher Jr. or Janarian Grant are just rocketing down the field on a return. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I assume the ball's in their arms. You'll know how
Mhm.
fast it's going when they're running.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. I think that actually does present some pretty cool opportunities. And we kind of thought that the players union in the CFL had entered into this long-term bargaining agreement, but they're at a bit of a having a disagreement right now about the numbers and the revenue from last season, because it'll set the baseline for revenue sharing. The players are supposed to be getting 25% of this stuff. Now, a lot of this stuff is a little bit over my head. The numbers, all that kind of stuff, it probably makes your eyelids get a little bit heavy when you talk about that stuff, but still kind of concerning that and I guess
Yep.
that's business. Not everybody's playing fair all the time. Everybody wants to keep the most amount of money in their pockets as possible, right?
Yeah, I get it. I think that it's interesting because like I kind of thought that this whole revenue sharing model that they were going to be doing was going to be tied to the salary cap, but it doesn't look like it is. So, um, like I don't know, like are the players just expecting to get a lump sum from the CFL and then to divvy it out to all their players? Like that's interesting, I guess. That's an incentive for them, but I just assumed, 20 if the league revenue was $100 million, then the salary cap would be $25 million kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I get
Like,
what you're
but
saying. Yeah.
but it just it's interesting. I hope that they can just be a just be transparent. Like you have a 7-year deal, I think, is what they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, it's a long one.
So you have you guys showed the fans that you wanted to have a nice long partnership so that we don't have to worry about this uncertainty. Don't have uncertainty with yourselves. Just be transparent, share the purse, and get a bigger purse. Let's go.
I like it. I like it. Now, before we talk about the 110th Grey Cup happening on Sunday, the USports this weekend, and it is it does suck. I did like it when the game was the same weekend, and I would like it in the same city, but I also realize that there are lots of U Sports markets that don't have CFL teams, and they should have an opportunity to host the Vanier Cup once
Yeah.
in a while. But I keep thinking about this, like just the way the landscape is across the country. I think once the Grey Cup happens, I would like to think that people pay attention to the Vanier Cup and Canadian university football, but I think the interest kind of fades after the Grey Cup. So, and I think this problem will actually, I guess, worsen or deepen if the Grey Cup moves up to earlier in November or October, like some people call for, because the universities can't change their schedules. So the Vanier is going to stay where it is, no matter where the Grey Cup is. And I know that's kind of just wishful thinking. I would like to have them aligned that way. But the UTech Bowl this weekend will be Montreal and Western. And then the Mitchell Bowl will be UBC Thunderbirds against the St. FX X-Men, which is a pretty interesting, I think, matchup. That one. That's one we don't get to see all the time.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to like them because they were the rival of my mother's university. So
Oh, so it runs deep.
yeah, so anywho,
I thought you
oh
were gonna say because you're a Marvel guy.
no, ironically enough, I
Or
did
wait,
start
is
watching X-Men, the first X-Men today.
are
So
X-Men
that's
Marvel?
yeah,
Oh
you
yeah,
got it right. Good
yeah, you did.
work.
You're a DC guy. That's what I meant.
I am
I,
not a DC guy.
on the
DC
plane,
sucks.
I watched The Flash on the way.
How bad was it?
I, I was entertained. I was on a plane. I didn't pay anything for it.
Well, that's good.
I was thoroughly entertained. So I mean, that's all I wanted, and it kept me awake for the flight. Uh, by
That's
the
all you need.
way, the guy next to me, it's his 27th Grey Cup. He's 35 years old.
Wow, props to that guy.
I
Must
think
have had some wealthy parents.
he actually would have missed he missed a couple, I think, because he wasn't the best student in middle school, so his dad didn't let him go for a couple of years. But now he's back
Wow.
going. 27 Grey Cups at that age, I don't know. He might be one of those guys, in
That's
40 years
impressive.
that, yeah, I love it. The dedication to the league, the fans you meet at the Grey Cup all across Canada. He's with a group of 39.
Wow.
How do you
That's
organize that?
that's a logistical nightmare.
It
But
absolutely is. I could
that's
barely
amazing.
keep track of myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sold out 110th Grey Cup at Tim Hortons Field, officiated by Tim Croker. The first time we'll ever see a Montreal club take on a Winnipeg club in the 110th edition of the game. I think that's remarkable. The fact that that's never happened, I still think that's so cool in the grand history of this game. There was an American team on the Grey Cup before this matchup ever happened.
Yeah. uh, uh, Being wrestling fans, I know we always go for those first time ever matches that
Yeah.
they have, right? So this definitely lends into that. And it, it I know Winnipeg was in the East for a long time, so it
Mhm.
kind of adds to it. And Montreal went away, but it's very cool that this is happening. I'm quite sad though that we won't have Andre Prue at all.
I
That's
know.
like I assume it's because he's from Montreal and Montreal's in the Grey Cup and they have some sort of system to protect even the face of that. I would assume anyway, because I know my boss's brother used to be an official in the league, and he said that when the Riders went to the Grey Cup, he wasn't allowed to
Mm,
officiate it. Uh,
interesting.
so I assume that's still the rule. So it's sad because in our group chat, it's always a race
He's
to
got
see
a
who's the
cult
first to put
following.
Andre.
He's got a cult following. And like at least among us. And yeah, our group chat, anytime Andre's reffing a game.
It's like you see Tozawa on the screen or something. But uh and Andre does not get the love he deserves from the mainstream fans. And so I think we have to be a little bit we have to love Andre a little bit extra for that.
I don't know. Could we start a fan club somehow?
I
What's his number on the jersey? I'd have to figure that out.
33. It'd have to be 33, of course. I,
I love it. That's a good
I would
call.
love to get uh XL jersey with Prue on the back and 33 on there.
Let's go.
Again, Randy, we need to talk, okay? Because refs have nice CFL hats, so I know you have them somewhere.
I can't wait
Let's
for
chat.
the annual check-in with the commish next year on 2 and Out, and yeah, we'll
I'm not
bring this
missing
up
that
and
one.
see what happens. Zach Collaros will be the first ever quarterback in the CFL to start 4 consecutive Grey Cups. Mike O'Shea coaching his 4th consecutive Grey Cup. There's this stat here from the CFL. So Zach's, I guess, yes and no, that he is the quarterback in 4 consecutive games. But back in the late 30s and early 40s, Ottawa was led to the Grey Cup by Orville Burke. What a name, by the way. So 3 years in a row, but the 1940 Grey Cup was revised to a 2-game total points affair between Ottawa and Bombay Beach because there was a rules dispute disqualifying Winnipeg. So since the 1940 Grey Cup was 2 games and Burke started both, that makes it 4 games in a row. I am fascinated by football from that era. Can you imagine now, like the Bombers? I don't know. I don't want to go against the dribble kick, so we're not playing this game. Okay, rematch of the Eastern Final for the Grey Cup. I feel like that's what they would do in the 30s.
Yeah, it's interesting that Andrew Harris grew up in Winnipeg, right?
Yeah.
So he probably knew his history. He saw that they were cheaters back in the day, and then he decided, hey, it's just the Winnipeg way.
Wow. Bringing the heat, showing your true colors. I still remember the second 2-0 live show in Calgary 2019 when the Bombers ended the streak. I had the big heel turn and I took off the 2-0 shirt, Canadian Mafia t-shirt, all in on the blue. And look, there's a lot of hate for the Bombers now. There is, from fans across Canada. I think especially Western fans, just sick of the Bombers. Eastern fans, I think they're fine if the Alouettes lose and don't really care. But I'm jealous of the Bombers. I think fans across the CFL are jealous of the Bombers and the success and everything that they've achieved since 2019. Is 3 out of 4 years, if they win on Sunday, is that a dynasty?
I think it is. I know friend of the show, Safamod from the Pivals podcast, he said it's not because they haven't won them consecutively. But you're going 4 years in a row. If you win 3 out of 4, that's a dynasty in my books. But the thing I'm going to say about Winnipeg and the fans hating them, welcome to the club. That's what happened to Riders. The Riders
happened to Calgary.
It happened to Calgary. It happened to Montreal back in the day. Like, that's what happens if you have sustained success in a league that only has 8 or 9 teams. So it's fine. It'll fizzle out eventually. I know there's a team. I don't want to say this too loudly. There's a team that used to call themselves a City of Champions, and they're far from that now, right? So, listen.
Yeah,
like,
people used to hate them too.
Yeah. So if you're a team, you want to be hated. Like that.
Mhm.
That feels into your persona, and I don't judge you for wearing a Canadian Mafia t-shirt. That's the one thing that the Bombers had that was
I
awesome.
had to have
the Canadian,
that shirt.
Yeah, the Canadian Mafia was pretty cool. They might be whacking one of them pretty quickly here, it seems, but
He'll be swimming with the fishes.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking here,
Well,
right?
so okay, modern day, it's really hard to win consistently like that often. I don't care what league it is. I think probably the best example we probably have is Tom Brady, right? And the winning that he and Belichick did in the NFL is remarkable, as much as we don't want to celebrate his success. I certainly don't.
No, there's no Cena love for Tom yet.
No,
You gotta wait a little longer.
No.
I think that's what's gonna happen to Tom. I think that's what's gonna happen.
Drunk Tom at the Buccaneers parade, I was a fan of that.
Yeah. I think
but I think the job that they've done to keep the core intact, everything.
Yeah.
But it all falls apart eventually. I'm not saying that it's going to happen next year or after this game, but with great success comes. And look, the players, yeah, they want to stay in that culture. They want to get raises. But then there's also the off the field stuff too. The guys that have experienced that success, moved up the coaching ladder, and eventually wanting to become GMs or whatever it is. So O'Shea's got 2 more years on his contract. Miller and Walters, they're both up at the end of December. I don't know. Is this a distraction? I don't think it's a distraction going into the game for the Bombers.
I thought Miller was under contract for the same. Is he not?
Oh, maybe I'm mistaken, and maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. But
because I thought that it was O'Shea and Miller, and yeah, they signed extension at the same time, but Walters didn't, because Walters, they couldn't come to an agreement, and then he said he didn't want to negotiate until after the season was done.
Okay.
If I'm recalling correctly. The thing about that, it's even harder when you have 1-year contracts in the CFL. A
Yeah.
lot of the other places, the norm is, in the NFL, you're seeing players sign 7-8 year contracts now.
Mm-hmm.
But like the Patriots and like Tom Brady, the Bomber players were taking pay cuts so that they could stay together. So that you're right, that can't last forever. Eventually players are
Yeah.
like, hey, okay, I need to look after myself. I only got a couple years left. Like the players like Willie Jefferson, he's taken very team friendly deals, but it's probably time that man gets paid.
Mm-hmm.
And Zach, he's at 600,000, I think, for next year. So and some of that's got to be guaranteed because he's been on the team for long enough for that guarantee to kick in. So Winnipeg fans, I think you have to hope that you win it this year, because I do think that decline does start. I'm not saying you're not going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying any of that stuff. This dynasty, if we're calling it that, I think it's not over, but it's there's less days ahead than there were before, if that makes sense.
So I think what I'm seeing is that the assistant general managers, Ted Jovia and Danny
Yeah.
McManus, aren't under contract for next season. So
Yes.
I guess the 3 guys doing a lot of the legwork at GM aren't under contract at the moment. We'll see what
And
happens after this year, but it could be
he's been a
Stanley.
hell of a GM. He has been a hell of a GM. So I don't really want to get into the stuff, but there has to be a reason when you're that good of a GM and what you've built for you not to sign. And if I think it's more than money.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
There's been a lot of rumors. I don't know if this is the place to get into that, but I don't know. Maybe O'Shea moves up. Who knows what happens with the Bombers? But I mean, this could be Stanley Bryant's last game. I think he's kind of been on that year-to-year trajectory for a little bit. And then once, the big man at left tackle steps back, it's a crucial position. And him combined with Jamarcus Hardrick, it has been maybe this is stuff we talk about on Sunday, after the game. But there could be some changes with this team going forward. But we know how the Bombers are. They show up for the big game. They're cool under pressure. They're good for all of this. And I don't think that they will let this worry them at all. But we do need to talk about the injury reports that were released. Dalton Schoen has been out for several weeks, still not practicing. They haven't technically ruled him out yet. But man, that's rough. And I don't know, just the way the Alouettes defense has been playing, this just seems like an opportunity for that defense to keep rolling. I know they still have Kenny the King and Dembski and Wolodarski and Oliveira and all this great stuff. But Dalton Schoen does leave a big hole in any offense. Just look at the touchdown numbers over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I'm starting to doubt that he'll be out there on Sunday. Now, that statement will probably age poorly, but it has to be a concern for the team either way.
Well, I think it's tough. Like when you've been out as long as he has, it's been at least 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Coming back, like sometimes there's rust, and I don't know if you want to risk that rust in the championship game. So it's rolling the dice. I know that we saw Kenny Lawler come back after his absence dealing with his visa issues, and he didn't have rust. He contributed right away. But I think like Dembski wasn't practicing either, but his ankle looked fine. Whatever they shot it with seemed to do the trick. So I'm assuming they're going to do the same thing. Like Westcate's won a Grey Cup with a broken freaking foot, so I'm pretty sure Dembski's going to play. I don't think Big Hill's going to play, and
That's tough.
That's another huge loss.
They listed
because
that as a calf injury, by the way.
yeah, I don't know if you're wearing a walking boot if you have a calf injury,
Right. Yeah,
but
that's interesting.
he wasn't wearing the boot today at practice. He didn't practice. He was just kind of on the sidelines, but the reports were that he was walking very gingerly. So I don't think he's going to be Tammy laughing because I say gingerly. I don't think that he's going to be able to play, and that's something that Montreal, they might be able to game plan for, because he's that guy on short yardage who's
all over the field.
all over the field. Exactly. So I think that the injuries coming in that Winnipeg is dealing with, and the complete lack of injuries that Montreal is dealing with, that could be a factor.
Yeah, you said Dembski didn't practice. He did play last week. Bailey didn't practice. He did play last week too. Kyrie Wilson, who came in to kind of rotate in with Big Hill out, he didn't practice. And Jackson Jeffcoat didn't practice. He's been dealing with a hip issue, I think, for most of the season. And he'll probably be out there. But you look at the Alouettes, and
everyone they have,
they can go any way they want. Ellingson didn't get into the lineup last week, but he's practicing. Keon Julian Grant, the big yak, the big Canadian receiver, and I thought earlier in the year was very valuable to the Montreal offense. Since then, has been dealing with injuries, and I think that has kind of coincided with Austin Mack slowing down a little bit for the Alouettes as well. His rocket start as a rookie in the CFL. If Julian Grant gets back onto the field, he can work up the middle with Big Hill out. They can. This is all easier said than done, though.
Yeah, that's another thing, though. Big Hill out, not guarding the middle there. That is exactly where Montreal offense needs to be going. They need to be hitting those short crossing routes. That is the game plan. Like, so that's huge. That's huge.
The crazy thing is, almost every stat that we measure, the Bombers are in the top third of the league. In passing yards, they're second to BC. In passing yards against, they're first. Rushing yards against, third. Rushing yards for, first. They're first in points, 4 points allowed. Both these teams are pretty good at protecting the football. They're both in the positives, especially since Montreal had a +8 last game alone. I don't think they're going to force Winnipeg to turn the ball over 9 times. If they do that, then, hey, Cody's been there before, where his team has forced 5 or 6 turnovers and still lost the game. So I don't think they're going to repeat that as what they did against Toronto. But the big one here, I think the biggest difference here is what teams do on second down. Like, the Bombers are far and above anyone. They're over 10% better than the Alouettes on second down. Can they have success on first down? Can they get William Stanback going, and not just later in the game when he's in there to ice it, but wear down the Bomber defense and get them into manageable second down situations, and maybe try to prevent Winnipeg from having those, dagger 11 play 7-minute drives that just beat up a defense.
Yeah.
Jason Moss is going to have them prepared. I don't know if you saw, he had the whole team. They got a picture with the warplane that the team was named after. Like, he just seems so fired up and so dialed in.
Yeah.
Dare I say, he's a very likable guy now. I'm a fan of what he brings to Montreal and to the CFL and the passion he brings. And
Yeah.
I think those Alouettes are going to they're going to embrace that underdog thing and say, hey, nobody believes in us, but we believe in us.
Yeah. I've always liked Jason Moss, the player. I thought he was I thought he was awesome. I honestly like I just he was, even when you
I
didn't like
like
him, it
the
was
fire.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when he was freaking out on the sidelines in Edmonton, like, yeah, maybe you didn't like that, but you loved it because it was just hilarious. But it's almost like he's done a 180. Like, you can tell he still is as passionate as he ever was, but he's matured. He's learned to dial it in, and he's a very likable coach. But he's not the Craig Dickinson or like Harry Jones type of coach where he's a player's coach, but he's gonna coddle you. He's like, I want to run through a wall for this guy. And so he knows how to motivate his players, but he also holds his players accountable, and he holds himself accountable. He's redeemed himself as a coach so much. Like, I know I was excited when the Riders signed him as offensive coordinator. I kind of got less excited as that went along, but I don't know how much that was Craig, telling him what to do or what. But as a head coach, he seems to have got it, and he's took this band of misfits and players that nobody wanted and turned them into what could be a championship team. So all the props to him.
This is pretty cool. So I'll bring up the picture that I'm referencing. Matthew Shinetti a couple days ago. The team posed in front of a World War II Lancaster bomber. Jason Moss has emphasized the connection between the Owls and their fighter squadron namesake. It feels right, Moss said about the team posing in the Hamilton Warplane Museum. Man, I just think that's cool, and it just probably fires up the team, to know what that name means and what they're representing and each other. And I think he's done a really good job, obviously, because they are the hottest team in the CFL. 7 wins in a row. They were 6-7, I guess, 7 weeks ago, and now they're on a 7-game heater going into the Grey Cup, playing their best football at the best time of the year. But Sheldon is the offense playing their best football at this time of the year. I don't think I can say that.
No, that's the thing. They beat Toronto probably, like, they played 3/4 of a perfect game. They special teams dynamite. They had a special teams touchdown. Defense dynamite. I guess 2/3, not 3/4. Defense. They scored on defense. They had 8 turnovers, but offensively they struggled. They did find the end zone a couple times, but they struggled. If they're going to beat Winnipeg, they cannot struggle on offense, because any time that you give Zach Caleros and those receivers and Brady Oliveira, you just have to, you can't give them time. Like, you have to force 2 and outs. You have to take the ball away. If Winnipeg gets off to a slow start, you have to be able to capitalize. That's the one thing. They got 14 points off turnovers. 14 points off of 8 turnovers.
Yeah.
Like,
they should have probably had 30,
Yeah. Like, so if they need to score touchdowns every time they get a turnover, because, like you said, they'll be lucky if they get 1 or 2 in a game with this much on the line, with the veterans that Winnipeg has on their defense. And it's not like The weather looks really good. It's not like, I don't think weather's going to be a factor, so it doesn't look like you're going to have that slippery ball or anything like that. So we're just going to see the best offense going up against one of the best defenses, and we're going to see what happens. I just hope it's...
Cody Fajardo has rushed for 100 yards in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to be forcing the Bombers to be looking for him to take off.
Yeah, but he has to exercise that demon that is Zach Collaros. He's never beaten Zach Collaros as a starter.
That's wild.
So and Cody is the type of guy he's gonna game out. He's gonna do everything he can, but he puts so much pressure on himself as well. So he has to find that balance of leaving it all out on the field, but not leaving it only up to him. He needs to use his weapons. He needs to get Stanback involved early. He needs to find his receivers on the hot routes, the crossers, especially if Adam Bighill's not playing.
You know, I don't even know if we've given Winnipeg enough of their due for what they did against BC. And they're on a 5-game winning streak right now. That's actually the best win streak they've had going into the Grey Cup over the past few years. Yeah. They held the Lions to 189 yards. They had 9 sacks. They forced 5 turnovers from the Lions as well. And at times this year, Cody Fajardo and the Alouettes have been very susceptible to the sack. They can't let Winnipeg and Jefferson and all those boys live in the backfield. It's not going to spell good for them on Sunday at all. But we look back to the games earlier this year. Winnipeg beat Montreal 17-3, and they also beat them, I think it was 47-17. So they've crushed them this year.
And that game where they beat them 40-17, Montreal had 2 pick sixes.
Yeah.
So offensively, they've held them to like 6 points.
Wow.
Yeah. But I will say that Winnipeg's offense didn't play as great as they have against BC, because that, with all, again, like Montreal, with all those sacks, with that, they still only scored 24 points. Sergio Castillo missed 2 field goals. He can't do that in the Grey Cup. You can't leave points on the field anywhere. So it's interesting, because I would say Montreal has a better defense than BC does, but Montreal doesn't have the offense that BC does. So it's that balance where, what are we going to see here? But Cody Fajardo needs to play like the guy who replaced him in Riderville. He needs to get the ball out of there in a second. He can't. The one knock that Cody's had is that he's not able to read a defense very well. And even if that's the case, then you need to lock down your first read, and it needs to be out of there. You can't take a 3-step drop against Winnipeg and take success. You have to get the ball and you're connecting. So I'm sure that Jason Moss is going to know that and have that ready for Cody, but we're going to have to see what happens, because Cody under pressure, sometimes he thrives, but often he folds. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, can't force it. Just take the play that's there and take the dribble kick if it is 2nd and 18.
3 or 4 times. Let's do it.
Are we going to see it on the big stage, Sheldon?
I hope so.
I would love it so much.
No, I want the fake more than the actual dribble kick. I want the fake. That's like, pretend to dribble it, then toss it back to Fajardo and hit, Mac down the field for an 80-yard touchdown. Let's go.
Now, the Alouettes have been called kind of the litmus test in the CFL, look, up until last week, they hadn't beat anybody above 500 and they hadn't lost to anybody below 500. But the Argos beat them 3 times in a row and lost. The Bombers are 8.5-point favorites. The Argos were 10.5-point favorites. The over-under is set at 47. So the Bombers, while they're favorites, they're not the heavy favorites that Toronto was. So it's not, a unfamiliar position for the Alouettes. Although, Sheldon, the Horns have been banned from Tim Hortons Field. You kidding me?
There's going to be a lot of people who bitch on social media happy about that.
I was so close to getting a prime delivery to the hotel in Hamilton so I could be the horn guy.
Yeah.
I might show up to the Banjo Bowl with one of those things.
Let's go.
I can see the wheels turning.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I usually go to Banjo Bowl on a bus.
Yeah.
So if we could get, I might have to talk to the Piffles. Yeah, we might have to talk to the Piffles boys about that. Everyone who gets on the bus gets a horn.
Embrace the horn, man. That's what I say. But we're not going to be hearing it on Grey Cup Sunday.
We might hear a couple. I think they'll probably try to sneak them in there, and then we'll see if they actually enforce it or not.
They had them in Toronto, like maybe the first play or so, and then they were taken away. So we'll see if they can get them into the Grey Cup. That's the thing. If people wear warm weather gear, you can hide a lot of stuff. And we'll just say that it'll keep you warm, and keep your wallet intact if you take advantage of some of that winter clothing. But I'm not going to say any more regarding that. We know both teams are going to be prepared. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. No. It's going to be a fun game to watch on Sunday. So let's maybe lock in some predictions here. Now, there's going to be some people listening on the plane, into Hamilton, or driving into Hamilton, or at work having FOMO like you, Sheldon, although you probably won't listen to this, and I don't blame you. I can't listen to my own voice either. My wife would disagree, but
yeah.
Let's do the CFL awards that are happening in Niagara Falls. Now, I'm going to go to Niagara Falls. I won't be going to the CFL awards ceremony, but I bought tickets for Shaggy today.
Ooh, that's a good choice. That is a good choice.
We saw Shaggy about 10 years ago in Saskatoon.
Yeah.
I loved it. Mr. Lava Lava. Man.
Mr. Lava Lava. Girl.
That Hot Shot album, I think it's 20 years old now. That one got some serious play on my Sony Walkman, brother.
Man, one of the first CDs I ever had was like Much Dance. Or no, it was Now. I'm pretty sure it was Now.
Okay.
The first Now, and it had Boombastic on it.
Oh, Mr. Boombastic, you kidding me?
Take me back. Take me back to compilation CDs. Now I just have Spotify and I can do whatever I want, but man, I'm stoked that you're going to Shaggy. That's awesome.
I used to
Tammy is stoked as well.
I used to drive this minivan and I didn't have a CD player, so I got the tape adapter, the CD Walkman. Yep. Girl, you're my angel, baby. Just cruising down the 4 in Lloydminster, Saskatchewan / Alberta.
It wasn't me.
Uncool guy in all of the border city. Okay, CFL awards. MOP, Chad Kelly or Brady Oliveira. This is really interesting now. And I, like you said, I think the voting was done before the division finals. But I think they're going to give it to Kelly.
Yep. Kelly's going to get it, and I think he's going to give a heck of a speech.
Claros had 10 more passing touchdowns than him. I think Oliveira was more dominant as a running back in his position than but I think he's gonna get it. My
It's
heart says Brady, my head says Kelly.
not 9 times out of 10 they're going to give it to the quarterback, right? It may not be
Yeah.
fair, but that's the flashy position, and yeah, but yeah, I think if they would have voted after, I think Oliveira would have got it. But again, you can't take away an
I
award
know,
from
I know.
somebody for one game. So
And hey, he's an exciting player, an electric player, and you can't let the East Final diminish that, of course.
yeah,
Most outstanding defensive player, I think they're going to give it to Betts over a Darius Pickett of the Argos, although
agreed.
Pickett's
Yeah,
a heck of a player. I think, if Brady, he's not going to get the MOP, so he'll get the MOC, although Marc-Antoine Dequoy had a remarkable season for the Alouettes. The offensive lineman, Hardrick or Allen, I think they're going to give it to Hardrick.
yeah. I think Hardrick, like he's going to get some credit for Brady Oliveira's success there.
Most outstanding special teams player, Sean White or Javon Leake. Now, the steady kicker, one of the greatest seasons in CFL history, or the flashy return guy, setting the Argos club record for most return touchdowns. This is, I think they'll give it to Leake, but
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if White gets it.
I think White. This is the same as Kelly and Oliveira. I think for me, I think White
Right.
should win, but he's not flashy. He's just a kicker. He's doing what kickers are supposed to do. And Leak had a very outstanding season. When you can have a better season than Pinball Clemens, I think you're gonna walk away with some hardware.
Most outstanding rookie, Kai Gray of the Elks or Quantez Stiggers of the Argos. I think they're going to give it to Stiggers.
Mm-hmm.
Coach of the year, O'Shea or Dinwiddie. I think they're going to give it to Dinwiddie.
I think so too, and I think he deserves it. Yeah.
Yep. He had a great year keeping that group together, and they really were a great team, man. They were phenomenal. 16-2. Nobody can take that away from the Argos. MOP/MOC of the Grey Cup game itself, Sheldon. I think Brady Oliveira gets both.
Interesting. I picked players from each team that I think will win if they win, like if their team wins. So I think for the most outstanding player, it's going to either be Zach or Willie Jefferson. Depends on how the game goes.
I would love to see a defender get it.
Yeah. For the Owls, I think it's Sankey or maybe Cody. If Montreal wins, I think Cody's going to have a pretty much flawless game. So he'll probably deserve it if they win. But if it's a defensive struggle and they squeak it out, then Sankey. That's my thoughts for that one. For Canadian,
like
though,
Antoine Dequoy could. Hey, if he steals one from Zach, he might get the award for sure. Yeah. Dequoy or Cody are good picks, I think, out of Montreal for sure.
Yeah, and then for Canadian, I think it's Dequoy. I think if the Alouettes win, it's Dequoy no matter what, and I think if the Bombers win, it's Oliveira no matter what. I think those are pretty much the only two options, really.
Green Day playing the halftime show. They're a band that has a lot of short songs, man. They could fit like 9 or 10 into a halftime show. What are you hoping to hear?
Well, I was talking with Tammy about this earlier, so I have my picks and I have her picks. So I'm going to do her picks first. So she thinks they're going to play Basket Case, and they have a new single out, so she thinks they're going to throw that in there. I can't remember what it's called.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
And then Good Riddance and When I Come Around. Those are the ones, and I completely forgot about When I Come Around, so I'm pretty upset at myself for that. So I didn't have that on my list.
I have no idea if they do this, but I would like to see American Idiot change the Canadian Idiot with a cameo from Weird Al Yankovic. That would make my Grey Cup.
If so that happens, Travis, I would murder you for you being able to see that. Literally.
Could you imagine the riff starts and Weird Al comes out, don't want to be a Canadian idiot? They want to be some beer swilling hockey nut. I
Randy,
might
we
retire.
need to talk.
Look, Green Day has some stuff to promote. Weird Al wants to promote Weird coming out on Blu-ray and DVD early December. Look, it's a match made in heaven.
You just made it so that I'm going to be disappointed when it doesn't happen, you bastard.
I got myself all fired up for that now.
Well, let me get to my picks now, because
Okay.
I'm important too, I think they're starting off with Welcome to Paradise, because I think that's that's a good song. And then they're going to go into American Idiot, and it's not going to be with Weird Al, because I'm not giving you that. Then it's going to go into Basket Case. Then it's going to go into Know Your Enemy, because that's a good football song.
Hey, that would be a good song. That's a good choice.
Then they'll finish off with Good Riddance, and then. But you're right. I just hope that there's like 7 or 8 or 10 songs that they just medley through it, because that's what you want.
Bring the energy, bring the heat.
Yeah, because like I think when Fall Out Boy did it in Winnipeg, there they threw like all their hits into what they could do. So kind of the similar thing is what I'm hoping here. But
now,
we'll see what the show is too.
Monster Truck is playing the Block Party pregame, so I want to try to catch them.
I like Monster Truck a lot.
I love those guys. I actually got to play against one of them in a game of PlayStation in my radio career. He's a big NHL guy. Takes the the PlayStation on the road, and I worked him in some NHL.
Nice.
I think he was so hungover from the night before.
Yeah.
And I came in fresh as a daisy, ready to just work him in some NHL. But hopefully you get to check out those guys. Again, shout out to the city of Hamilton for that transit strike.
Perfect time.
Look, I don't know if this is going to get figured out by game day, but I'm not looking forward to game day. There was a big mess there is every Grey Cup waiting for taxis and Ubers and everything after a game, but the public transit system takes off some of the pressure. Without that, I just think Grey Cup Sunday is going to be fun. And I don't know when I'm going to get back to the hotel to record the post-game show with you, Sheldon, but I might have to do a phone call with you.
We'll figure it out.
We're here, the 110th Grey Cup in Hamilton, Ontario. Well, I'm here, and I got some Chinese food that's getting cold, so I'm going to go eat that right now. You can leave a comment. I know Andre, the big fan of the Montreal Alouettes, watching 2-0. He's nervous, and I really hope that I run into some the Les Bowmen in the Hammer. Like, I still think that's one of the greatest things. A bunch of John Bowman jerseys with pins. It doesn't get much better than that. So I hope to see my good friends that I get to see sometimes only once a year at the Grand National Drunk in Hamilton, Ontario. What are you going to say?
Leave without making our picks there, bud.
Oh, I'm locking in the Bombers. You?
Yeah, it's gonna be the Bombers.
I wouldn't be shocked if the Owls win. Although
the hot hand can beat the better team often. So I think it was interesting seeing the CFL riders like split 50-50.
Wow.
I thought it would be a little bit more like, I thought one of them might take a flyer on it. But interestingly enough, Jamie Nye and Christina Constable, those were the top 2 people, and they both took Montreal.
Did O'Leary take Montreal? I think he takes them every week, no matter what.
I assume he did. Yes. But I can't remember the third person. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be the Bombers. But listen, it's Grey Cup.
Yeah.
You got Green Day rocking out. We just want a good game. If I'm sitting on my couch while you get to be having fun in Hamilton, just give me a good game.
So it's a bittersweet week, man. Like,
yeah.
And I know that we got Christmas to look forward to. At least I look forward to it. But once the Grey Cup's over, it's like, oh.
Yep.
Now what?
Yeah. Well,
I don't have to podcast and edit until 6 a.m. anymore, so that's a positive too.
unless no, I'm just joking.
You can rate, review, and subscribe to Tune Out on your favorite podcatcher. I will accept free beers wherever you see me in Hamilton. And I will consider that a Patreon subscription if you buy me a free beer. Well, they're not free. They're free from me.
$3.99.
That's my cheap plug for myself. You can support the show on Patreon as well. And yeah, get on the YouTube channel, subscribe, leave a comment there as well. Yeah, I'm finally going to go eat the Chinese food. And we'll talk to you Sunday after the game. And we hope to have the show out for Monday when you're traveling away from the Grey Cup and you're back at work dealing with those Grey Cup hangovers. Thanks for listening to Tune Out. Enjoy Grey Cup 110.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.